On the night of March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight 370, a massive Boeing 777, sat on the tarmac at Kuala Lumpur International Airport. The weather was clear, and inside the cockpit, veteran Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah and his first officer, Farik Abdul Hamid, were preparing for a routine flight to Beijing. With 227 passengers and 10 crew members aboard, the plane was cleared for takeoff. Just after midnight, it climbed into the dark sky. Less than an hour later, cruising at 35,000 feet over the South China Sea, the pilots received their final normal transmission from Kuala Lumpur Air Traffic Control. Good night, Malaysian 370. They were instructed to contact controllers in Vietnam. Everything was perfectly normal. Then silence. In just 1 minute and 43 seconds, Flight 370 vanished from all civilian radar screens. It was as if it had been plucked from the sky. This kind of tracking relies on signals from the plane's transponders. For them to disappear so suddenly meant they had either failed catastrophically or, more ominously, someone had deliberately switched them off. All attempts to contact the jet failed. Flight 370 was gone, triggering the largest and most expensive search in aviation history. The initial search zone was the last known position in the South China Sea, but soon the Malaysian military dropped a bombshell. Their long-range radar, which doesn't need transponders, had tracked an unidentified aircraft. The data revealed that just moments after disappearing from civilian radar, Flight 370 made a sharp, deliberate turn back towards Malaysia. It flew across the peninsula, banked right near the island of Penang, and continued northwest until it flew beyond the radar's range. The plane wasn't just missing. It had been redirected. As search teams scrambled to the Strait of Malacca and the Andaman Sea, another team of investigators was digging into the plane's satellite communication records, or SATCOM. This system had been working fine until over the South China Sea, the connection was abruptly cut. But here's the crucial part. 3 minutes after the plane vanished from military radar, the SATCOM terminal on the plane suddenly requested to log back onto the satellite network. It successfully reconnected and stayed active for nearly 6 more hours. During this haunting ghost flight, 2 satellite phone calls were made to the cockpit. Both were acknowledged by the plane's system, meaning they were routed to the cockpit, but neither was answered. The SATCOM unit also automatically replied to 5 routine status checks from a ground station in Perth, Australia. By measuring the tiny delays in these 7 signals, the time it took for them to travel from the satellite to the plane and back, investigators could calculate the plane's distance from the satellite at each point. This created 7 rings of possible locations on a map. When they factored in the plane's speed and fuel, the data pointed to a final, desperate arc deep in the remote southern Indian Ocean. The plane had flown until it ran out of fuel. The search immediately pivoted to this new, incredibly remote area of the ocean, an operation so vast it took ships 6 days just to get there. There was a flicker of hope when underwater microphones detected a sound that matched the timing of the final transmission, but it was later dismissed as a natural geological event. Then came a desperate race against time. The plane's underwater locator beacons, which emit pings to help find wreckage, only have a 40-day battery life. Signals that seemed to match the beacons were detected, and an autonomous submarine was set to scan the deep ocean floor for weeks. It found nothing. The abyss kept its secrets. For 16 long months, the mystery deepened. Then, on the other side of the Indian Ocean, on a beach on Reunion Island, a piece of a wing was found. Markings on this Flaperon confirmed it belonged to Flight 370. While it was 4,000 kilometers from the search area, ocean current models showed it was possible for debris to travel that far. Over the next few years, more than 30 other pieces of debris believed to be from the plane washed up along the coast of Africa. With the official underwater search suspended in 2017, investigators focused on the human element. Early theories of a terrorist hijacking faded when it was discovered that 2 passengers traveling on stolen passports were simply asylum seekers. What about a catastrophic onboard event? A fire, perhaps started by the shipment of lithium-ion batteries in the cargo hold, could explain a sudden loss of communication and the turn back towards land for an emergency landing. But this theory doesn't fit the facts. An incapacitated crew wouldn't have been able to fly the plane for another 6 hours. The plane didn't attempt an emergency landing. It just kept flying. This leads to the grim possibility of pilot incapacitation due to slow decompression, where a gradual loss of cabin pressure could have rendered the crew unconscious. In this scenario, the plane on autopilot would have flown its programmed course until it ran out of fuel. However, flight simulations revealed a critical detail. The initial sharp left turn back across Malaysia had to have been manually controlled. The bank angle was too steep for the autopilot to execute. Someone with knowledge of the Boeing 777 had to have been at the controls. This brought the investigation right back to the cockpit, and specifically to Captain Zahari Ahmad Sheh. In 2016, a leaked document confirmed a disturbing rumor. A forensic analysis of the captain as home flight simulator had recovered a flight path with coordinates that ended in the southern Indian Ocean, eerily close to where the plane is presumed to have crashed. While many saw this as a smoking gun, proof of a premeditated plan, investigators couldn't definitively link the simulated flights to a plot. But what could be the motive? Captain Zahari was a 53-year-old family man with over 18,000 flight hours and a perfect record. There was no evidence of financial trouble or mental health issues. The only slight oddity was in his very last radio transmission, where he failed to repeat back the assigned frequency, a minor but unusual slip for such an experienced pilot. His co-pilot, Farik Abdul Hamid, was also unremarkable in the context of the investigation. He was young, engaged to be married, and had no known issues. The only other detail of note was that as the plane flew near Penang, the co-pilot's cell phone briefly connected to a ground tower. But investigators clarified this was just an automatic network handshake, not an attempted call. In 2018, the official report from the Malaysian government was released. It was unable to rule out third-party interference and concluded that the plane's course was changed through manual inputs. It stated that the communication systems were likely disabled deliberately. But without the main wreckage and the black boxes, the report could not offer a definitive conclusion. It left the world with more questions than answers. Theories continue to swirl from the plausible to the extreme. Some experts believe the plane didn't fly in a straight line after turning south, and the crash site is actually elsewhere. Others propose darker scenarios, like a remote hijacking or a military shoot-down. For now, a decade later, the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 remains one of the most terrifying and unresolved mysteries in the history of aviation. The families of the 239 people on board are still waiting for answers that may never come. Thank you for watching. If you found this video informative, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more deep dives into fascinating stories. Stay curious and stay safe.